In every city, in every company, there's always that one person who seems unstoppable. Doors open for them, opportunities find them, and success follows wherever they go. It's not always because they're the smartest, the richest, or the most talented. It's because they understand something most people don't. Success is never a solo journey. While many work in silence, hoping their effort alone will get noticed, the truly successful build relationships that multiply their effort 100 times over. They don't climb alone, they connect, they collaborate, and they grow with others. That's the heart of Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, a timeless guide to mastering the power of connection. This isn't a book about networking tricks or fake smiles. It's about genuine generosity, giving first, caring deeply, and building relationships that last a lifetime. Through Keith's real-life stories and strategies, you'll learn how to turn small conversations into lifelong partnerships, how to ask for help without fear, and how to create a network that lifts you higher every single day. By the end of this summary, you'll understand why relationships, not resumes, not luck, are the ultimate currency of success. Stay with me till the end, because the lessons from this book could change not only your career, but the way you live, lead, and connect with people forever. Becoming a member of the club. You can be the smartest, most hardworking, or most talented person in your town, but without a network of real human connections, your success will always have limits. Talent, intelligence, and money matter, but relationships are what open doors. That's something Keith Ferrazzi discovered early in life. As a young boy, Keith often felt the sting of being different. His parents worked tirelessly, yet they could only afford to send him to a private school by sacrificing their own comfort. While his classmates arrived in shiny new cars, Keith waited in front of the school gates for his father's old dented one. His classmates wore designer shoes and crisp clothes, while he wore polyester shirts and knockoff sneakers. They teased him for it, and though it embarrassed him deeply, it also lit a fire inside him. He promised himself that one day he'd rise above it, that one day he'd belong. Years later, that same feeling returned when he stepped into Harvard Business School. Once again, Keith found himself surrounded by people who seemed to have been born into privilege. Many of his classmates came from wealthy families and powerful circles. He came from a modest, middle-class background. But instead of feeling defeated, Keith saw something others didn't. He realized that success wasn't only about what you knew or how hard you worked, it was also about who you knew. That realization began much earlier, back when he worked as a caddy at a local country club. While carrying golf bags across the green, he would listen quietly to the conversations of the rich and powerful. He heard one man offer to help another's son land a job, a woman agree to invest in her friend's new company, and parents discussing how their kids got into elite schools because they knew the right people. It was in those moments that Keith understood something crucial. Wealth wasn't just passed down through money, it was passed through relationships. The rich helped each other rise higher because they were all part of an invisible network of trust and generosity. That's when Keith decided he wanted to learn the rules of this game, the game of genuine connection. He got his first lessons from Mrs. Poland, one of the club's kindest members. She saw potential in young Keith and often spoke highly of him to others. Because of her, more club members began requesting Keith as their caddy. But what she really taught him was far more valuable than any introduction. She taught him about generosity. She told him that success built on kindness lasts longer than success built on ambition alone. When you help others, she said, they naturally want to help you in return. It's not about keeping score. It's about caring. From that moment on, Keith lived by that principle. He learned that success can come through money, talent, or hard work, but those things alone won't take you all the way. Real success comes when you combine effort with empathy, when you care about others' growth as much as your own. While many of his Harvard classmates focused solely on personal achievement, Keith focused on people. He reached out, shared knowledge, offered help, and built genuine relationships. In return, life opened its doors for him in ways that pure hard work never could. Networking, Keith discovered, isn't about transactions. It's about transformation. It's not about collecting contacts. It's about cultivating connections that enrich both lives. And that's how you truly become a member of the club. Not the one defined by wealth or status, but the one built on generosity, trust, and care. Don't keep score. As Keith often says, you can't go far in life without people. Connections are the bridges that carry us to places hard work alone can't reach. And when people ask him, what's the real secret to success? His answer surprises them every time. Generosity. To Keith, generosity isn't just an act of kindness. It's a philosophy, a way of living that has shaped every chapter of his journey. He knows from experience that no one climbs the ladder of success without a helping hand. When he was young, his father worked in a steel mill, doing tough physical labor day after day. One day, his father gathered enough courage to speak to Alex McKenna, the company's CEO. He told him about his son, a bright, determined boy, and asked if there was any way to give Keith a better future. Impressed by the father's boldness and love, Alex granted Keith a scholarship to one of the best private schools in the country, where he served as a trustee. That single act of generosity changed the direction of Keith's life forever. Years later, when Keith graduated from Yale, another opportunity came, again through kindness. Elsie Hillman, the chairwoman of the Pennsylvania Republican Party, had read about Keith's failed run for New Haven's City Council. Instead of dismissing him, she saw potential in him. She lent him money and encouraged him to attend business school, believing in his promise even when he had stumbled. Keith's life was built on the generosity of others, but also on his willingness to accept that generosity. Many people find that difficult. They see asking for help as weakness, or they feel guilty about accepting it, afraid they'll owe something in return. But the truth is, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength and humility. Success, after all, is a shared journey. Keith learned that the people who rise the highest are the ones who both give and receive freely. The wealthy and successful understand this balance. They don't see relationships as transactions. They see them as continuous exchanges of value, advice, wisdom, opportunity, or encouragement. They know that every time they invest in people, that value eventually flows back in unexpected ways. Keith often mentors young people who reach out to him for career guidance. He calls companies on their behalf, connects them with potential employers, or helps them land internships. But sometimes they turn him down, not because they're ungrateful, but because they feel they can't repay him. Keith always tells them, it's not about paying me back, it's about paying it forward. That's the heart of this chapter. When you stop keeping score, when you give without expecting a return, your network begins to grow organically. Over time, you'll find that people you once helped are now helping others because of you. Keith compares this to the Internet. The more people connect to it, the more powerful and valuable it becomes. Relationships work the same way. The more you give, the more you strengthen the entire web around you. Today, because Keith spent years helping others succeed, he has a small army of friends, colleagues, and former students who continue that same cycle of generosity. They mentor, guide, and support the next generation, creating a chain reaction of success that never stops. And that's the lesson. Generosity isn't a strategy. It's a way of life. The moment you stop keeping score, you open the door to limitless possibilities. Do your homework. Think back to a time when you showed up for a class completely unprepared. Maybe you skimmed your notes at the last minute or barely studied for an exam. Remember that uneasy, anxious feeling, the sense that you're about to face something you should have been ready for. That's exactly how it feels when you walk into a room full of potential connections and realize you know nothing about the people you're hoping to meet. Networking without preparation is like taking an exam you haven't studied for. Your chances of success are slim. Keith Ferrazzi learned early on that every meaningful relationship starts with curiosity and preparation. Before every meeting or event, he does his homework. He researches the people he wants to meet, not just their job titles or LinkedIn profiles, but their interests, achievements, and stories. He wants to understand what excites them, what they care about, and what they're proud of. Today, it's easier than ever to do this. Almost everything you need is online. If you can't find much about the person directly, look up the company they work for, the industry they're part of, or even the kind of work they do. Every piece of knowledge you gather gives you a stronger foundation to start a real conversation. Because here's the truth. Opportunities to connect are fleeting. You often get only a few minutes, maybe even a few seconds to make an impression. When you're prepared, you won't waste that precious moment asking shallow questions. Instead, you'll stand out by showing genuine interest. Keith believes that making connections isn't about quantity. It's about quality. It's not how many business cards you collect, but how many people remember you after the conversation is over. And they won't remember you for your charm or small talk. They'll remember you for how you made them feel, understood, valued, and seen. One powerful example of this came when Keith attended the Milken Institute Global Conference, a gathering of some of the most influential business leaders in the world. Before the event, he spent hours researching the attendees. He even thought strategically about where to meet them. He realized that the bar would be the perfect spot, a relaxed setting where people naturally opened up. Keith knew it would be uncomfortable to approach strangers, especially CEOs and high-profile leaders, but he also knew that playing it safe would get him nowhere. So, he came prepared with more than just small talk. He planned thoughtful, meaningful questions, ones that would spark a genuine conversation. When he learned that John Pepper, the former CEO of Procter & Gamble, would be attending, Keith did his research. He discovered that John was also a Yale graduate, just like him. From there, he found a shared connection, a respected Yale professor named Robin Winks. During their meeting, Keith brought up Professor Winks, and immediately the ice broke. John's face lit up with recognition, and what could have been a brief introduction turned into a deep, engaging conversation. That moment of connection wasn't luck. It was preparation. Keith's curiosity and effort helped him build a relationship that lasted for years. John Pepper later became a mentor, offering valuable advice and insight that helped shape Keith's career. That's the magic of doing your homework. When you take time to know people before meeting them, you show respect, sincerity, and thoughtfulness. You don't just connect, you click. And those are the relationships that truly last. Warming the cold call. Sooner or later, in your journey to build meaningful connections, you'll have to do something most people dread: make a cold call. For many, even the thought of calling a stranger feels terrifying. But Keith Ferrazzi believes that cold calls don't have to feel cold at all. They can be turned into warm, genuine opportunities if you approach them the right way. Think of it as both a challenge and a chance. Yes, rejection will happen. You'll hear no more times than you'd like. But if you go into it expecting to fail, you almost certainly will. Instead, Keith encourages you to see each call as a bridge waiting to be built, a chance to turn a stranger into a valuable connection. The key is to warm the cold call before you even make it. And Keith offers a few smart strategies to do exactly that. The first is simple but powerful. Draft off a reference. The reason most cold calls fall flat is because the other person has no reason to trust or even listen to you. You're just another voice on the line. But when you mention a mutual friend, colleague, or trusted organization, the call instantly warms up. That shared connection gives you credibility and buys you attention. Keith once used this very approach while helping Jeff Arnold, the founder of WebMD, reach out to Sony. Jeff wanted to partner with Sony for a product launch, but couldn't get through to the CEO. No surprise, since top executives are often unreachable, so Keith started working his way through his network. He knew the CEO of a marketing agency called Brand Buzz, which happened to handle Sony's major campaigns. That CEO, John Partilla, introduced Keith to Serge, the head of media and internet strategies at Sony. Serge was also an extremely busy man, but because Keith mentioned John's name, someone Serge trusted, he agreed to take the call. And that single introduction led to a conversation that helped WebMD close the deal with Sony. The second strategy: state your value clearly. When you finally get someone's attention, every second counts. You don't have time for vague talk. Instead of focusing on what you want, focus on what they gain. Explain how your idea or collaboration could make their work better, easier, or more profitable. Keith knew Sony was preparing to launch new products and needed strong marketing ideas to make them stand out. So when speaking to Serge, he immediately linked Jeff Arnold's new product to Sony's upcoming strategy. He didn't just ask for a meeting, he offered a solution. The third strategy: talk less, say more. Clarity is more powerful than length. Be concise, respectful of their time, and direct about what you want. For instance, instead of saying, "Let's meet sometime," say, "Are you available this Thursday?" This could be mutually valuable, and I'll adjust my schedule to fit yours. That kind of statement shows confidence, purpose, and consideration. Three traits busy people always respect. And finally, offer a compromise. Even if you don't get exactly what you're hoping for, leave room for the relationship to grow. If your proposal gets rejected, suggest meeting anyway, not to sell, but to connect. You never know where that next conversation might lead. Keith did exactly that when speaking to Serge. Even if Sony had turned down Jeff's product, Keith still would have wanted to meet Serge in person, because he knew that relationships built today often lead to opportunities tomorrow. In the end, warming the cold call isn't about manipulation or sales tricks. It's about respect, preparation, and genuine interest. When people feel that you've done your homework, that you understand their needs, and that you come recommended by someone they trust, they don't see you as a stranger anymore. They see you as someone worth talking to. And that's when doors begin to open. Never eat alone. One of the golden rules of relationship building is simple but powerful. Never disappear. Stay active, stay visible, and stay connected. Relationships, like living things, need care to survive. You're not just building bridges between yourself and others. You're keeping those bridges strong, sturdy, and alive. Keith Ferrazzi lives by this rule. Many of the people he once met for business eventually became lifelong friends. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because Keith made a conscious effort to nurture every connection over time. People who seem to know everyone don't get there overnight. They get there through years of genuine effort, showing up, following up, and giving more than they take. Keith's own success didn't come just from his talent or intelligence. It came from persistence, consistency, and an incredible work ethic. He made it a point to turn every trip, every meeting, every moment into a chance to connect. Once, while on a tight business trip to New York, Keith wanted to meet 3 different people: an old client who had once been the president of Lego, a friend who served as the COO of Broadway Video, and another close friend he hadn't seen in a while. But there was one problem. His schedule was packed. He barely had time to see one person, let alone 3. Instead of giving up, Keith came up with a smart solution. He invited all 3 of them to dinner together. In just one evening, he was able to reconnect with everyone, and even better, he introduced them to one another. That single dinner didn't just strengthen Keith's own relationships. It also created new ones between his friends. Everyone left the table with fresh connections and new opportunities. Keith often does this in creative ways. Sometimes he'll invite a potential employee to go for a jog and turn the run into an informal interview. Other times, he'll ask a colleague to join him for a car ride so they can discuss ideas on the way. He doesn't separate networking from life. For him, they're one and the same. The principle is simple. The more you connect, the more opportunities you create. Relationships work like the internet. The more people connect to it, the more valuable it becomes. Each new link strengthens the whole network. Connections are like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they grow. Ignore them for too long, and they weaken. But if you nurture them by staying present, staying generous, and staying engaged, they'll carry you farther than you could ever go alone. So remember Keith's timeless advice: never eat alone. Every meal, every meeting, every shared moment can be the start of something extraordinary. Conclusion: if there's one powerful truth you can take from this book, it's this: your success in life depends not only on what you know or how hard you work, but on who you connect with and how you nurture those connections. The most successful people in the world understand this. The rich keep getting richer, not just because of money or luck, but because they've mastered the art of relationships. They build networks rooted in trust, generosity, and genuine care. They know that every person they meet holds the potential for opportunity, not through manipulation, but through mutual growth. Connections aren't people you call only when you need something. They're bonds you cultivate over time. You earn trust by being authentic, dependable, and willing to help without expecting anything in return. When you stop keeping score, when you give freely and build others up, life finds a way to return the favor, often in ways you never expect. Invest in your relationships. Treat them like long-term partnerships rather than short-term exchanges. Some of those connections will turn into lifelong friendships, mentors, or collaborators who shape your journey forever. And never stop staying active in your network. The more relationships you nurture, the more doors will open. Opportunities don't come from luck. They come from people. Keith Ferrazzi often compares ambition to the Japanese carp, or koi fish. These fish grow only as large as the pond they live in. If placed in a small pond, their growth stays limited. But when they're released into a vast lake, they expand to their full size and beauty. The same is true for you. Your pond is your network, the people, mentors, and communities that surround you. The larger and more vibrant your network, the greater your potential to grow. So keep expanding your world. Keep meeting new people. Keep offering value, kindness, and curiosity wherever you go. Discipline yourself to show up, to care, and to stay connected. Every great success story you've ever heard, every name that inspires you, got there through a mix of effort, vision, and the helping hands of others. That's the message of never eat alone. Your relationships are your greatest investment. Nurture them well, and they'll take you farther than you ever imagined. And that was Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, a reminder that success is never a solo journey. The more we give, the more life gives back. If this summary inspired you, make sure to subscribe to Audiobook 101, where we explore the world's best books on success, mindset, and personal growth, all in one place. Thank you for listening. And remember, your next opportunity might be just one genuine connection away.